Somewhere above your city right now, a crow is watching you, not the way birds usually watch humans. Casually, indifferently from a wire, it is studying your face, filing it away, and if you have ever done something it didn't like, it has already told the others. That is not metaphor, that is documented science. And it is only the beginning of what crows are actually capable of. A group of crows is called a murder. Scientists say it is just a quirk of historical language, but the more you learn about how crows actually operate, the more you wonder if whoever named them knew something the rest of us are only now beginning to understand. Crows are not clever for birds. They are clever by almost any standard on this planet. Neuroscientist Andreas Nieder at the University of Tübingen spent years studying the crow brain. What he found disrupts something most people assumed without thinking, that intelligence requires a large layered cortex, the kind mammals have. Crows don't have that. What they have instead is a structure called the nidopallium caudolaterale, a dense, tightly packed neural region that produces the same computational power through completely different biological architecture. Different design, identical result. Crows can solve multi-step puzzles that they plan for the future. They understand causality, not just what happens, but why it happens. They have passed the mirror test, the same assessment used to confirm self-awareness in great apes, elephants, and dolphins. Their overall cognitive ability has been compared by researchers to that of a 7-year-old human child. A 7-year-old with wings and a grudge. But raw intelligence alone does not make a crow remarkable. What makes a crow remarkable is what it does with that intelligence inside a society. Crows live in family units within larger communities called murders. These communities have strict social hierarchies. Older birds hold rank, younger birds defer, and those ranks are remembered and respected. Territories between different murders are maintained not just through aggression but through memory and negotiation. Every crow knows exactly where its boundaries end and someone else's begin, and those boundaries are enforced without exception. If a crow violates the rules of the group responds. Researchers have documented what is known as crow mobbing, dozens, sometimes hundreds of crows descending on a single crow that has behaved in a way the group judges to be threatening or wrong. They surround it. They call. They press inward from every angle. Sometimes the offending crow is driven out of the territory permanently. Sometimes it doesn't survive. It looks uncomfortably like a trial with a verdict already decided. Now here's where it becomes genuinely unsettling. Because crows don't only enforce rules within their own species, they enforce them against humans. John Marsluff, a wildlife biologist at the University of Washington, conducted one of the most striking experiments in modern animal behavior research. His team captured wild crows while wearing specific rubber masks, crude caveman faces. The crows were banded, measured, and released. In the weeks and months that followed, researchers walked the same routes through the same neighborhoods wearing those same masks. The crows attacked. Every single time. But what Marsluff did not expect was this. Crows that had never been captured, birds that had simply witnessed the event from a distance, also attacked the mask. They had learned from the ones who had been wronged. The threat information had spread laterally through the community. 2 years later, the mask still triggered aggression. 5 years later, the same. And the attacking crows were no longer even the original birds. They were the offspring. Young crows who had never had a single direct interaction with those masks, but who had been taught by their parents exactly which face to remember and exactly what to do when they saw it again. Crows passed grudges down through generations like inheritance. Now, imagine you are a crow and a member of your murder has just died. What happens next is something researcher Kaylee Swift at the University of Washington spent years documenting. When a crow dies, the surrounding crows do not simply scatter, they gather. Sometimes in enormous numbers, dozens, hundreds, descending on the precise location where the dead crow lies. For a long time, people called these gatherings crow funerals and assumed they were mourning rituals. Swift's research revealed something far more calculated than grief. The crows are gathering intelligence. They are systematically investigating the threat near the body, studying the object or creature associated with the death, memorizing it, vocalizing about it, and then distributing that information across the entire murder so every member knows what killed their own. A crow funeral is not a burial ceremony. It is a threat assessment meeting, the murder convening to process a casualty and make sure it never happens the same way twice. And then there's something no one expects to find in an animal like this: love. Crows mate for life. Courtship is not a casual encounter. It is a prolonged evaluation. A male crow approaches a female through elaborate ritual, bowing deeply, puffing his feathers into a dramatic silhouette, and bringing her gifts. Carefully selected food, shiny objects, items chosen and presented directly. The female does not accept based on a single impressive display. She watches over time. She evaluates consistency, reliability, whether the male continues to provide and protect after the initial courtship is over. What she is selecting for is not beauty. It is character, and the social pressure to honor that bond extends beyond the pair. Crows within a murder observe each other's relationships. A male that repeatedly fails his partner, that abandons her during nesting, that fails to bring food, that disappears under pressure, is remembered. Not just by her, by the community around them. These birds hold each other accountable in ways that most humans never do. There is one last thing worth knowing about crows that almost nobody talks about. They play. Not in the loose way we use that word for animals. They genuinely, deliberately play, sliding down snow-covered rooftops repeatedly for no reason, except the sliding, stealing small objects and dropping them mid-flight for other crows to catch, performing aerial roles that serve no survival function whatsoever. They make toys from found materials. They invent games. Researchers who have studied this long enough have started using a word they usually reserve for animals with much larger brains: joy. A species with courts and verdicts, with judges and inherited grudges, with loyalty rituals and threat intelligence networks and generational memory and a genuine capacity for joy. And right now, one of them is sitting on a wire above your street, watching your face, deciding. You might want to be a little more careful about how you treat the next one you see.